Yeah, we came a long way. That's what the song say. And I could do all things. I could do all things. Yeah, I could do all things. Yeah, we came a long way. That's what the song say. And I could do all things. I could do all things. I can do all things. Yeah.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Justin.
I'm Madison.
And this is two guys play ping pong pretty well while talking about God. Hopefully also pretty well. We just play ping pong, we pick a topic, and we played a 21 straight up. Now, we can't keep score while we play because it's impossible for our brains. Zach, our cameraman, keeps score. He's pretty good at keeping score, but he might not be 100% accurate either because this is all about being pretty good at things, basically.
Yeah.
And so,
while Zach keeps pretty good score.
Pretty good at ping pong, okay at talking about God, hopefully, and Zach keeps score. I think we're currently tied 1 game. So here we go. All right, let's play. We'll warm up a little bit. Hey, Madison.
Hey, Justin.
Ooh, are you gonna hold the paddle that way? I wouldn't recommend it.
Oh no.
I almost lost the camera. So hey, what do you want to talk about today?
Generosity.
Generosity, being I think it's called Christian bling, is what it's.
Christian bling.
Christian bling. Okay, so
Christian bling.
when the word generosity is used in church, traditionally,
everyone cringes.
Well, okay. First of all, what was your experience church-wise?
So I've been at this church since I was in 5th grade. I went to another church briefly before this.
You choke. We got it on camera. Madison's last moments. That'd be awful.
We're so worried about Corona. I ended up choking on a ping pong ball.
In the midst of Corona hysteria, what took Madison out? It's a ping pong ball. Okay, so you've grown up at his hands.
Yeah,
and we are not a church that has pushed money. We've never passed a plate.
Yeah, but I've been in churches that
even
passed
when
plates.
that was I'm saying that we're probably we've done one giving campaign in the last 15 years.
The temptation when I was a kid, as the plate was being passed, let's start this point stuff.
Well, someone's got to serve. We're going to start it. You serve.
All right.
So the temptation
when the plate gets passed is to take the money out of the plate. That's what I always experienced.
That is the most epic first point.
That was cool.
That we will ever have. I thought it was I was like, oh, what a great shot, and then you return it.
But it was just a weird. It always. I don't know. It's just kind of a weird thing to sit with a plate of money in front of you and go actually, I'm not going to do anything today. And it puts people in a weird place. But after that church, I really haven't had that experience because I've grown up here.
Well, and plate passing, let's be honest, we live in a more digital. More people are giving online, giving via their phones, texting to give, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but the plate passing would be if you sent a push notification to everybody's phone that was why aren't you giving right now?
Right. Oh, I have that one scheduled for later today.
Oh, great.
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you? So I guess that...
My church experience is a little different. So, I'm older than you. And when I started going to church, it was we did pass a plate, but there was just a real emphasis on it. And so we actually had a church bulletin, and in the bulletin it would print what last week's giving was, and what the budget was for the year, and where we were at on that budget, things like that. And so it was just a very, very different thing. I also ended up going to a church that's an awesome church. I still listen to their pastor all the time. I respect this church heavily, but it was a much more not prosperity gospel in the sense that if you give, prosperity gospel is if you give money to the church, God will give you 10 times more.
He'll give you a Mercedes.
Yeah, it wasn't like that, but it was a really large church, and they did giving campaigns all the time.
And I don't want to wholesale dismiss that idea, so let's circle back around to the being blessed by your generosity.
Yeah, so we've had different experiences, and I think the simple truth is, being a generous person, if you're a Jesus follower, it's kind of baked into the cake. Jesus actually says, when he's teaching the Sermon on the Mount, he says, when you give. And there's an assumption there, right? If you give. Not that. If you decide that you want to give financially as an expression of your faith, nope. It's hey, when you give, this is how you should do it. It's
an assumption of...
a presumed positive, I think, as you would say.
There you go. And that you see that in the early Jesus followers in the book of Acts as well, where they had everything in common.
Yeah, and they were known for their generosity.
Yeah, and not just an attitude or a mindset, but they had their physical things in common, their land and their goods and their resources. What verse do we have? A theme verse for our giving?
Yeah, I haven't shown it in quite a while, but basically it's the cheerful giver verse.
Okay.
And it says, when you give, it should be like given from your heart. It's whatever God tells you to give. It should not be compelled, shouldn't be out of pressure, but it should be something that you genuinely desire to do, for God loves a cheerful giver. And so we always say at his hands, that giving is something that we're not going to tell you how much to give. We're not going to tell you, we do follow like the idea of biblical principles, and there is a principle in the Bible of percentage giving.
Yeah.
That goes all the way back to Abraham in the Old Testament. And so we encourage people to do that. That's a good way to do it, but it's not compelled, it's not forced. Yeah. I think that when I think about generosity, I will say this. I have experienced that it's the only thing, by the way, in the Bible that God says we should test him with. There's scripture that says, hey, test me, tithe, give. Tithe means to give a tenth, technically. Yeah. But he's like, actually test me on this. And it's the only thing we have like that. Yeah. Have you ever experienced, Jesus said it's better to give than receive, and he says, hey, if you want to receive, then you should give, right? Give and it will be given back to you. And that sometimes gets taken and I think almost gets like weaponized and manipulated.
And I mean, shout out to Mom.
I have no idea whose serve it is.
It's yours.
Okay.
Shout out to my mom. My mom was a very firm believer in like from what you've given, you're going to receive. And my mom got checks in the mail. And I was always like, that's weird. Why does my mom get checks in the mail? And I'm not this big like pusher of, hey, if you give this amount of money, you're going to get this amount of money back. But I have experienced as in my own personal life, with my own personal finances, like strangely miraculous, like I gave them an amount of money that was uncomfortable, and then
we'll tell that story, not like in dollar amounts.
And then randomly so we were praying about giving to the church in a way that was uncomfortable for us. This was Hannah and me. When my family was just the two of us, now we have Simon. So,
now you have Simon, little baby
we
Simon.
would have consulted Simon if he was there, and he would have just cried or pooped himself. But and we decided to give a certain amount, and then we did, and it was a stretch for us. And literally like the next week, we got that amount completely fulfilled back, just like through a random gift that we were not expecting at all from a family member. And it was like I said, miraculous. It was like to the dollar amount, right at the same that we had given to the church. And so it was just a crazy faith-affirming thing to go, when I trust my God with my money, he is not going to take that lightly, and he's going to bless us. And there's like a relationship there. Well,
and I think I've had similar experiences, and I won't get into those, but I think it's interesting because Jesus talks about money quite a bit. A lot of people don't like money talked about in church, and that's partially because churches have talked about it poorly.
Been weird about it.
Yeah, they have been weird about it. Turn on the TV and watch that. But at the same time, Jesus talked about money a lot, and very much connected what you do with things, what you do with your money, to like what you really care about, like what's tied to your heart.
Yeah.
He says where your treasure is, there your heart also is. And so I think it's interesting because one of the things that happens a lot in America, we are one of the wealthiest groups of people ever, but we're also afraid of losing money.
Yeah.
The stock market right now is a really good example of that. So we have more. We're not worried about starving, but we're also like, what if I don't have as much?
Yeah.
And so I'll hear a lot of people in church be like, well, I'm generous with my time. I'm generous with my
and it's
talent. And that's true. Like we have people that serve and use their talents and gifts, and your wife's on the worship team. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Game point. Okay, but I will say that like if you're trying to find a way to like get out of financial generosity, that's probably tied to a heart issue.
Well, where actually, if you're generous or not.
You're generous or you're not.
You're generous,
and if you're generous, but you can't be generous with money, it means money probably matters too much to you. And Jesus said you can't serve God and money.
Who provides for you? Does your money provide for you, or does God provide for you? Congratulations.
I wasn't even gonna mess around with that point. I decided before you served it, if he brings something weak, I'm gonna hit it hard, and it's gone.
I don't care about our conversation.
I'm not being generous.
That was very generous of you.
No, I'll wrap it up with this. You always get mad because the conversation.
The conversation is supposed to end.
So you should be generous. God honors that.
Yep.
And don't feel compelled, pressured.
Yeah.
But he does promise to notice that, to honor that, to bless that. You've experienced that. I've experienced that. Jesus promises that, and it's part of being a Jesus follower.
Shout out to that lady at Aldi that gave me a gift card for my groceries a couple days ago. It was really sweet.
Boom.
Yeah.
Tip your waiters and waitresses once restaurants open up again. I'm sorry.
See y'all.
Bye.